What is up, everyone? Welcome to Reality Room Spoilers with Paul, bringing you the latest on the Big Brother 18 live feeds updates. So, when we left off on the episode that just aired on Thursday, we were left with the HOH competition. So, luckily for us, they showed this endurance comp on the feeds. So, luckily we got to see who fell first, and ultimately who won. Who, if you guys can see from the the name of the video, it was Nicole that won HOH. Now, I know a lot of you aren't too happy with that, but whatever. Let me talk to you a little bit about what went on during the comp. Okay, so first off, with the jurors, it seemed like Day and Zakiya weren't too keen on getting back into the house, because after like 10 minutes, they like skyrocketed off together. They held hands and they just jumped off together. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing? Whatever, right? I guess they kind of figured that they couldn't beat Paulie or Victor, the two really strong competitors in the house. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they would jump off pretty early without having to like waste their strength. But then again, I don't know what was going on through their heads, so I don't want to make any judgments. The next person to fall off was Nicorey. Obviously, Nicorey has a very big body, very tall, so him falling off isn't that big of a surprise. With this kind of comp being a wall comp, he has to support his body weight, and obviously that's very complicated, so he fell off. It is what it is. Next player that falls off is Bridget, unfortunately. I was kind of rooting for Bridget to get back in. Once I saw that wall comp, I was kind of like, well, this is either going to go to Paulie or to Victor. And honestly, Victor is obviously the one I want back. So out of those two, so Bridget falls off, which is unfortunate. It was cool seeing all the returnees come back in, But anyway, the next person to fall off is, and everyone was so happy when this happened, Paulie. That's right. So it seemed like Paulie was like shaking or whatever, and even Natalie was like Natalie and Paul were like making fun of him later for it. He was like, he was like really shaking or whatever. Paulie did his best. I thought this would have been his comp just based on his body type, but I guess I was wrong about that, and thank God I was wrong about that, because Jesus Christ, I want Paulie out. Okay, so because those four jurors are out, that solidifies Victor as the returning house guest, which is what we all expected and what we all wanted to, basically. I was just so happy when he returned to the house. But I also expected him to win this HOH because he's kind of a comp beast, but that didn't happen because Victor was the next person to fall. Kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So Victor falls off, and it's between, ironically, not the 5 jurors who probably should want this more. It's between Paul, James, and Nicole. And honestly, with their body types, it makes sense for this comp. They all have very lean bodies. They're kind of short. Paul a little taller than James and Nicole, but and James was doing his strategy from Big Brother 17 when he was kind of grabbing onto the thing. It was all right. So they stay on for a long time. I think it was like over an hour and a half before Paul then fell off, which was unfortunate because I know a lot of us like Paul, but it is what it is. So Paul falls off, and then it's between Nicole and James is like shaking, and Nicole picks up James's strategy of kneeling down and holding it like that, which seems to help her a lot because she was struggling earlier on. One important note is that Paul seemed to like really focus on Nicole staying up there when he was up there. According to Nicole at the competition, Paul whispered "stay" to her right before he jumped off. So and I'll get to that later when we talk about the nominations and what's about to happen in the Big Brother house. Very exciting stuff. So Nicole tries to break her deal with James and vice versa. They say, listen, if I win HOH, I won't put up your showmance. If you win HOH, you don't put up my showmance, etc., etc. I don't know if James threw this to Nicole or if he was just really tired. I have no idea. But at some point, James is like, do you want this HOH? And Nicole's like, yeah, I want to see my mom. So James jumps down and Nicole wins HOH. Now, I don't know. There's been a lot of speculation that James was actually out of it. And according to some sources later on, Natalie was shouting something about glitter or whatever. And apparently that was a code word for James to stay on the fucking comp. And James didn't listen, so that kind of tells me that maybe he was too tired. I don't know, but I could be wrong. We'll find out in the diary room sessions on Sunday. So after this HOH competition, Nicole is HOH. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what's going to happen now, right? I mean, obviously you know from the name of the video who the nominees are, so I'll just say who the nominees are, and then I'll explain how we got there and who the target is. So the nominees this week are Paul and Michelle. Okay, so let me explain by first explaining what happened the previous night. So Paul and Victor faked a fight, and Paul kind of used that leverage to get closer to Nicole and Corey, which did work because Nicole and Corey now trust Paul at least way more than they did before, which I don't think they trusted him at all before. So then they now trust Paul, and Victor seems to be buddy with the James, Natalie, and Michelle. And they faked the fight throughout the house, and Victor pretended like he was going after Paul, and it is what it is. It was supposed to help Victor stay yesterday, but it didn't end up. Yesterday being Thursday, we're shooting this on Friday, so it didn't work. Victor was still evicted. He ended up coming back in, but he was still evicted, right? So I guess the fight didn't really work out. But Paul also used this time to make himself seem like the bad guy. Like he called like Michelle a cunt or whatever for all like the stuff that she's been saying about him behind his back, which, let's face it, she's been saying a lot of stuff behind his back, and Natalie has been too. The personal talk, I just don't like it. It is what it is. But when you play Big Brother, you just try not to keep it too personal. I just don't like that, and I don't like what Michelle and Natalie have been doing. Apparently, they've been saying that Paul's like a secret super chef or something, and he's lying about making fries. I don't even know what the fuck's going on anymore. Like, this isn't Big Brother anymore. This is like petty high school drama. And Paul's sick of it, and we're all sick of it. So Paul just calls her a cunt, which I don't endorse that. I don't endorse him doing that. But if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. And because of that, he kind of makes himself an enemy to that side of the house. So that's why Nicole and Corey are kind of closer to him now, or one of the reasons rather. So let's talk a little bit about the conversations that happened after Nicole wins HOH. So at first it seems like Nicole is going, at least the other side of the house, James, Natalie, and Michelle, the three of them think that Paul is the target for the week. However, Nicole has other ideas, and we'll start off with how they started with Paul and Victor going after James and Natalie, and how it ended up with Nicole going after her target, which ends up being Michelle, and I'll explain the reasoning why later. You're all probably thinking, why the hell would she go after Michelle? Maybe it's not as stupid as you think, and I'll tell you why. So Nicole and Corey have Paul and Victor up in their room, and Paul and Victor are kind of explaining like they're kind of lying, kind of telling the truth, kind of telling them what they want to hear, basically about listen, I want to work with you, but they're serious about working with them. Like, just like the information is a little like gray area, because that's how it always is in the Big Brother house. They kind of like edge things towards one way. It is what it is. Like they were saying, like they know that Nicole and Corey had nothing to do with them going up on the block last week, which isn't true. They probably both know that they did have something to do with it, but they're just lying and saying, oh no, we know you didn't have anything to do with it. We knew it was all Natalie and James, being manipulative and conniving, and then they blamed you for it. So I just thought that was really funny. But the Big Brother house, you got to have some gray areas when you're talking to the other house guests. Otherwise, you can't tell 100% of the truth all the time. So Paul and Victor are up in the room, and they're kind of discussing all that stuff about the other side of the house. And basically, they come to the conclusion that, listen, we want to work Final Four with you guys, and that's the way we want to be. We want James and Natalie to go up, depending on who wins the care package, which at this point they're assuming it's like an HOH takeover or like the deciding vote at the end of the week, which they're wrong. But it's not a bad idea. So they're saying that if any of the three of them win, they're going to put up James and Natalie, and the target will be James, basically. And I think it's a relatively good idea. To me, James is a big target in the house, and it's probably good for the majority of the house guests to want to get him out. However, we get to the next by the way, Nicole and Corey, they buy this completely. They want to go Final Four with Paul and Victor. Like, if you remember what I said before about Paul on the HOH comp telling Nicole to stay, like, according to Nicole, if Paul didn't tell her that, she would have fell off. So, and she's like, I know Paul has her back because of that. So I thought that was, I thought that was a little cute, emotional scene when she was telling that to Corey, and Corey's like, wow, it's pretty crazy. So we could have had a James HOH this week, and God forbid that would have been the repeat of last week. God, I fucking hate that. Anyway, so yeah, Nicole and Corey are in the room, and they completely buy what Paul and Victor are selling them, and they're all legitimately making a Final Four deal. I don't mind the Final Four. I like Paul and Victor. Nicole and Corey are meh. You know, maybe they'll redeem themselves this week. Okay, so that's what happens. So the next day, which is Friday morning, basically this morning if you're watching today, if not, Friday morning. So Corey actually wins America's Care Package, and I'm just sitting there like, why? Why? Why are you giving Corey the Care Package? I fucking hate America! Anyway, so I wanted Paul or Victor to win, like most of the people did. But ended up being Corey. Why? I have no idea. I guess we're all just out of touch with America, apparently. Or a lot of people are saying production's rigging it. I don't think production's rigging it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they are, but I like to think that they're not. But I could be wrong. A lot of people are saying it's because Paul and Victor's votes were split in half, and all the anti-Paul and Victor people went to Corey. I think that's more of a legitimate reason why Corey won the Care Package, and I honestly buy that a little more. The splitting of the majority of the fan base between Paul and Victor, alongside everyone that's against them voting for Corey, I just think that makes the most sense. So for those of you guys who forgot, the Care Package this week was a $5,000 bribe. I don't know how Corey plans to use it, since his showmans is on the block, is HOH rather. Nicole is HOH, so I don't think he has to really bribe her with anything. But he can bribe some other people with some votes. So we'll see what happens. Like, maybe he'll bribe... I honestly have no idea, because I think they're going to get whatever they want this week no matter what. So it's just kind of like, whatever. So after Corey wins the Care Package, Nicole decides that she wants Michelle to be the target for this week. And let me explain to you why. It's because Michelle is the only house guest right now that's actively going after Nicole. Now, honestly, game purposes, this makes sense to me anyway. To the rest of the house guests, the target between Nicole and Corey is Corey. Because out of the two of them, Corey can win the most comps, or has won the most comps thus far out of the two of them, with Nicole winning 2 comps, 2 HOHs, and you can't really count the first HOH because it was just between 3 other people, but I guess we'll count it. And then we have Corey, who won 2 vetoes and an HOH. So that's how it stands right now. So it makes sense that Nicole would want to go after Michelle, at least in my humble opinion. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree with me. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure you guys do disagree with me. You're probably like, oh no, let's get James out. Honestly, I understand the sentiment, but for Nicole's personal game, getting Michelle out is probably best for her. So she tells Corey that. He's like, okay, whatever you want to do. Tells Paul and Victor that we'll respect your HOH. And Paul, because he knows that Nicole made the deal on the wall to James and Natalie, he says he'll go up as a pawn. And then come eviction day, if none of them are off, yada yada, Corey and Victor will vote out Michelle, and Nicole will break the tie and get Michelle out. Okay, so that's the plan right now. My personal opinion, will this be the case? I don't know. Honestly, on the feeds, it really did look like they were all really excited about this Final Four deal. However, we've seen deals like this before be broken. Last week is a very good example of that, with James, Natalie, and Michelle having a Final 5 with Paul and Victor, and then breaking that very quickly. So we'll see if this Final Four deal actually pans out. It is pretty exciting, though, in my humble opinion, at least what's been happening. So the nominees this week, as you see down there, it is Paul and Michelle. And they plan that, at least they said they were going to throw the veto to Victor. I mean, come on, I guess we'll see, right? And, maybe the target will change, maybe it won't. We'll keep you updated in our future videos. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you liked it. Until next time, guys, peace.